If inflation in Europe is falling, then why does life feel so expensive for millions of people? Today we break down a big economic puzzle coming out of Europe. According to Christine Lagarde, President of European Central Bank, inflation is easing. But for ordinary household, that relief simply doesn't feel real yet. So what's going on? Are the numbers misleading, or is something deeper happening inside Europe's economy? Let's simplify this. Inflation across the Eurozone has come down sharply from its peak during the energy crisis that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Back then, prices for gas, electricity, food and transport surged dramatically. Now, inflation is much lower than those crisis levels. On paper, this sounds like a major relief. But here's the catch. Lower inflation does not mean lower prices. It simply means prices are rising more slowly than before. Think of it like this. If prices were rising at 10% last year and now they're rising at 2%, they're still rising anyhow. The prices are not going back to where they were. For households that suffered 2 years of sharp increases, a slow rise does not feel like relief. It feels like permanent damage. And that's what Europeans are struggling with. Across countries like Germany, France, Italy and Spain, families are still facing high grocery bills. Food prices in particular surged during the inflation spike, and many of those increases have stayed. Even if food inflation is slowing, supermarket receipts remain significantly higher than they were before 2022. Energy bills are another vulnerable point. While wholesale gas prices have cooled from extreme peaks, many households are still locked into higher contracts. Housing costs, especially rents, continue to climb in many major European cities. Mortgage payments are also hurting because the European Central Bank raised interest rates aggressively to fight inflation. Under the leadership of Christine Lagarde, the European Central Bank raised interest rates at the fastest pace in the history. The goal was to cool demand, slow borrowing, and bring inflation back towards the 2% target. From a technical perspective, that policy worked. Inflation is falling. But for an ordinary European perspective, the story is different. Higher interest rates mean more expensive loans. Businesses are facing higher financing costs. Consumers are paying more on mortgage and credit. Economic growth is declining and job markets have become less dynamic. So while inflation drops, financial pressure does not immediately disappear. There's also something called the price level effect. During the inflation surge, companies increase prices rapidly. Even if inflation cools, most companies do not reduce prices unless there's a recession or collapse in demand. Wages are another issue. In some European countries, salaries have increased, but often not fast enough to fully compensate for the earlier price shock. That means real purchasing power is still recovering. People are struggling because in many cases they are still catching up. Inflation changes behavior. After 2 years of constant price hikes, consumers have become cautious. Even if inflation slows, confidence does not instantly return. People continue to feel uncertain. Lagarde itself acknowledged this disconnect. It's a reminder that economic recovery is not just about data and numbers, it's about people's experience. Markets are now watching for potential interest rate cuts from the European Central Bank. If inflation continues to trend downward towards the 2% target, policymakers may begin easing borrowing costs. That could reduce mortgage pressure and support economic growth. Meanwhile, European governments face their own challenges. In short, inflation may be falling, but the cost of living crisis has not fully healed. The numbers are saying stabilization, but people are saying survival. So, as Europe moves closer to its inflation target, the real test is not just about hitting 2%. The real test is whether families actually feel relief in their monthly budgets. So, what do you think? Tell us in the comment section below.